Long before the town had a name people agreed on, before roads cut through the red earth, there lived a woman whose beauty was spoken of the way one spoke of miracles. Her name was Zahra. She was not the kind of beauty that shouted. She did not dress loudly or move with intention to be seen. Still, people saw her. Beauty clung to her the way sunlight clings to morning mist. Her skin held warmth even in Hamatan. Her eyes carried an unsettling calm, and when she laughed, it sounded like something remembered rather than heard. Men admired her openly. Some praised her to her face, others watched from afar, believing a woman so beautiful must surely belong to the spirits. For a long time, the people of the village believed beauty was proof of goodness, proof of favor, proof that the spirits had chosen someone above others. They praised beauty loudly and ignored what did not shine. And Zahra had once been their favorite proof. At first, Zahra was kind. She greeted people warmly, listened when they spoke to, and accepted admiration with a shy smile. But admiration is a dangerous thing when it comes without balance. Over time, it began to shape her thoughts. Compliments stacked like offerings at her feet. Desire followed her wherever she went. Soon, humility felt unnecessary, almost embarrassing. She began to believe beauty was proof of worth. Suitors came with gifts, carved bracelets, woven clothes, promises of comfort. Zara turned them away with careless words. Sometimes she laughed, sometimes she did not look at them at all. And when gentlemen spoke with sincerity, she grew bored. Among those who admired her was a man named Kamal. The weight of Kamal's envy. Kamal had never been invisible by choice. He was the kind of man people looked past, not because he was cruel, but because he was ordinary in a world that rewarded spectacle. He spoke softly, worked diligently, and loved deeply. Too deeply, perhaps. When Zara came of age, Kamal noticed her the way one notices a change in weather. Suddenly, helplessly, her beauty unsettled him, not because it dazzled, but because it reminded him of everything he was not. At first, his admiration was pure. He watched from a respectful distance. He defended her name when men spoke crudely. In his mind, loving Zahra made him better. He believed patience would be rewarded, but patience, when fed only silence, begins to rot. Kamal finally gathered the courage to speak to Zara one afternoon. When the sun sat low and forgiving, he brought no gift, only honesty. He spoke of admiration, of care, of wanting to know her. Zara did not even let him finish. She smiled, not kindly, and said, "Men like you should admire quietly." The words were not shouted. That was what made them lethal. People nearby laughed softly. Zara walked away. Something in Kamal fractured, not loudly but permanently. From that day, his love changed shape. Watching the world praise her, Kamal watched Zara receive what he believed he had not earned: adoration without effort, forgiveness without apology. He watched gentlemen turn away, while arrogance bloomed unchecked. In his mind, the world was unjust. Why would beauty excuse cruelty? Why would silence be mistaken for worldliness? These questions festered. Kamal began visiting the outskirts of the village at night. He listened to old stories, half-remembered warnings about spirits that responded to imbalance. He told himself he wasn't seeking revenge, only correction. But bitterness is a liar. At the baobab tree, Kamal did not scream Zara's name. He whispered it. He asked for her beauty to be taken, not destroyed, only removed, so she might learn. The spirits had something else. They had pride asking to be punished by loss. Zara woke before dawn, unsettled by a dream she could not recall. When she reached for water to wash her face, her reflection stopped her breath. Her skin, once smooth, looked unfamiliar. Her eyes seemed dimmed, as though a veil had been drawn over them. She touched her face again and again, hoping the mirror lied. It did not. She screamed, waking the household. Women rushed in, gasping softly, exchanging glances that tried to hide. Someone whispered prayers, Another suggested herbs, but Zara already knew. Her beauty was gone, not ruined but destroyed, taken in the days that followed. The village's attention shifted. Admiration turned into curiosity, then silence. Zahra stayed indoors. When she finally stepped out, her head was covered, her eyes lowered. When Zahra was beautiful, doors opened for her without knocking. People forgave her sharp words. Mothers pointed her out of their daughters as an example of fortune, not character. At the same time, others, quiet women, scared men. The elderly passed through the village like shadows. Their worth was measured in usefulness, not humanity. No one questioned this. It was simply how things were. When Zara's beauty vanished, the village did not speak of it openly, but silence is a language. Greetings shortened, invitations stopped coming, people stayed too long, then looked away too quickly. Children whispered questions their parents pretended not to hear. And slowly, something uncomfortable began to rise. If beauty could leave Zara, what did that mean for everyone else? Fear made people cruel before it made them wise. It was an old woman who taught her about powders and pigments, about how to paint a face that was not yours. Zara learned quickly. The mask became convincing. The world accepted it. But water was her enemy. She avoided the river. She no longer bathed among other women. She stopped visiting places where laughter met splashing waves. The beach, once her favorite place, became forbidden. And alone in the quiet, Zara began to change. Without beauty to protect her, she felt the weight of words who had once thrown carelessly. She remembered faces who had dismissed. Slowly, painfully, she learned what it meant to be unseen. Years later, she met Idris. He was not impressed by her beauty in the way others had been. He noticed her thoughts first, how she paused before speaking, how kindness now came naturally to her. He admired her patience, her silence, her strength. Zara loved him cautiously, like someone holding glass. Before Idris ever met Zara, he was already a man shaped by loss. His mother had once been known for her beauty, soft-spoken, admired, celebrated, but illness took that beauty early. Idris grew up watching people treat her differently as her body weakened, as her face changed. He learned, young and painfully, how shallow admiration could be. He also learned what remained when it left: kindness, patience, love. So when people later spoke of Zara, the woman whose beauty made men reckless, Idris listened without curiosity. Beauty to him had never been a promise. When he first saw her, Idris first noticed Zara not because of her face, but because of her stillness. She sat apart from others during gatherings, laughing softly but never loudly, watching the world like someone afraid to disturb it. Her beauty, carefully painted, was evident, but it was restrained, as though she wore it reluctantly. He spoke to her once about nothing important, the weather, the market. She listened with surprising attention. That was what he understood. This was a woman carrying something heavy. Idris did not chase her. He did not flatter her. He spoke to her as he would anyone else, and in that simple act, Zara felt something unfamiliar: safety. They met often after that. Idris never pressed. When Zara avoided water, he quietly changed plans. Marriage without possession. When they married, Zara featured marriage would demand her truth before she was ready. But Idris never tried to own her. He loved her mind, her careful words, her growing gentleness, her way of noticing the overlooked. At night, when Zara lay awake afraid of morning, Idris slept peacefully beside her. His presence a reminder that love could be calm. Yet sometimes he sensed her pain. He noticed how she flinched at mirrors, how she avoided rain like a curse itself. He did not ask, but he prayed silently. Idris believed everyone had a wound they revealed only when ready. When the rain washed Zara bare, Idris did not look away, but he also did not stare. He saw fear first. He remembered his mother's face when people stopped seeing her as worthy. And so, when Zara braced herself for rejection, Idris did something simple but powerful. He smiled, not in pity, not in reassurance, in recognition. "This is still you," he said, not as comfort, but truth. And in that moment, Idris chose her again. When Zara told him of the curse, Idris did not treat it as superstition. He knew bitterness lingered in places unseen. He was the one who suggested returning to the baobab tree, not to demand, but to offer. Kamal felt it before he had it. The shift in the air the night Zara returned to the baobab tree. He followed at a distance, guilt pulling him like a rope. He did not approach, but when Zara spoke words of humility instead of blame, when Idris asked for peace instead of restoration, Kamal fell to his knees unseen. For the first time, he spoke truth into the dark. I was wrong, he whispered. I wanted to be seen. Instead, I became cruel. The spirits listen most closely to those who finally stop justifying themselves. When the curse lifted, Kamal did not gain redemption through praise. No one knew his role, and that was his punishment and his mercy. He left the village quietly not long after, carrying with him the knowledge that love demanded humility, not entitlement. And Zara, though she never knew his full story, felt lighter, as if something bitter had finally loosened its grip on the world. At the tree, Idris stood not as a husband protecting his wife, but as a witness. He did not speak over Zahra's words. Instead, when the wind stirred, Idris added to his own voice, not asking for beauty to be returned, but for peace. If love is enough, he said quietly, let it be so. When Zara's reflection changed, Idris was the first to smile, not because beauty returned, but because fear left her eyes. He walked with her into the river, held her hands as water touched her face. When Zara hesitated, Idris stepped first, showing her there was nothing to fear. From then on, Idris remained as he always was, steady, patient, loving, and Zara learned something greater than beauty, that a man who loves without needing to possess can break even the oldest curses. The elders met beneath the same baobab tree where fair ones lived. They spoke of the curse, not naming it, but understanding it. One elder said, we taught her pride when we raised only her face. Another replied, and we taught ourselves cruelty when we turned away from her pain. They agreed then to change how stories were told. From that day, children were praised for kindness before looks, for patience before charm. Beauty was no longer spoken of as proof, but as a gift that could come and go. Over time, the village softened. People listened longer, looked deeper, laughed more freely with those they once overlooked. No one pretended beauty did not exist, but it no longer ruled.